All right, so to shade this in, we're gonna, boy, they're on top of it.
Reminder about PEP today, and the lists are in the library.
Sorry, back to that college tour. You sign up in the library. If you're a sophomore, junior, or senior and you want to go to the library, sign up. We go on March 6th. We will be back in time for practice and sports and all those lovely things. Thanks for listening.
That'll sound great on the video. Okay, now if they really are done, we'll see. Okay, I'm going to take a light line and go where the eyebrow is going to go. It's going to parallel this line at first. It's going to be relatively close to right here. I'm going to come right up here and go this direction just very lightly. Then I'm going to curve it around and get further away from this edge as I curve around. Bring it out that way. This is a very, very light line. It's just a guideline so I know where to shade up to. Okay? And there is a little distance between the upper eyelid and the eyebrow. We don't want them looking like they're growing together. So just put you a little light guideline there. That's all it needs to be. Don't come in here and put like a dark old line in there because we don't need that. Okay, now we'll do the shading that needs to happen here. And we're going to go from right here on our eyelid and just lightly shade up towards the eyebrow. I'm going super light, keeping my lines really, really close together for this because I want it to look smooth like skin. I'm starting off really, 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 really light to begin with. And I'm going to extend the ends slightly. So I'm coming along here and I'm extending the end right here, and then it curves around and I'm extending it slightly. And when I say extend, what I'm talking about is I've got a curve right here in my shading. This part comes out this way, this part comes out this way, and this goes in a little bit right there. That's just the first layer. And then I'll come in here and I'll go a little bit darker. I'm just going to gradually build this up. I don't want this to get too dark even when it's finished. The really important thing is that we keep our lines really close together. I'll let you guys do that for a second. If you didn't get a paper towel or a Kleenex or something to smoothen out your pencil stuff, you might want to grab that now because you will need it because we have to soften this and where we're going to shade over here in a minute. It's still going to need to be softened up so it looks like skin, so it's consistent with the rest of our drawing. I'm not going to do that just yet, but I'm giving you a heads up. Okay, our highlight, where the eyebrow or eyelid comes up and then peaks and comes back down, this is where our highlight's going to go above our eyelid because it's kind of where everything's peaking. So we're going to come over here and we're going to do the same thing that we did on this side. So we're going to go this way. We're going to extend the bottom out just a little bit, slightly darker where it meets the eyelid. Top. Again, not going crazy dark with this. This does require kind of a light touch and a lot of pencil control. As far as drawing the eye goes, you've done most of the hard part already. The only thing left on the eye itself, when we draw this, is to put the eyelashes on it. But the reason we shade this first and smooth it out first, and even before we do the eyebrow up here, is that when we go to do the eyelashes, it's got to overlap all this stuff that we're doing, and it's pretty much impossible to shade this if we do the eyelashes first. I'm going to go just slightly darker with this shading, and I mean just slightly darker. But part of the reason for that is when we smooth it with the Kleenex or the paper towel here in just a second, it will lighten everything up. Okay, now I've got that about where I want it, and this is the part where we'll come in, fold it down, get a little nice corner so I can get into small areas if I need to. I'm going to start along the edge of the eyelid. I'm only going to come over it a couple of times. I don't want to go too crazy with this. Bring it on across, and then just smoothing that top part up. And all I'm trying to do is change the texture at this point. Just trying to make it from looking like that rougher pencil texture when we first put it on into a smooth skin texture is all I'm trying to do here. If I do it right, and we did, do it right, we have a little highlight right here in the center and then a little darker on each side. I am going to come in here and darken this eyelid crease in just a little bit more after I've done that because it softened it quite a bit. That needs to be actually more prominent. But when I do this, I'm going to darken it right on the crease and then bring it down towards the eye, but I'm not going to bring it up above. Because I want the hard edge on the upper edge of this crease in the eye. I've got that reestablished. I can see a distinct line where the eyelid folds under there. And that looks pretty good right now. Hopefully yours is looking pretty good as well. Does anybody need any extra time at this point to get caught up to that point? All right, just give me a thumbs up when you're there, and we'll give you a minute to get there. We good? All right, we're gonna do the eyelashes now. These are a little tricky, but not too tricky. You just kind of have to really pay attention to what you're doing. What I'm gonna put on here first is my eyelash direction before I go and try to just draw them all on here. So the first one I'm gonna do, I'm gonna come about right in the middle, and I'm gonna come right from the edge and just put a little line that goes up, and I'm gonna just lift it straight up. And then off to the left of it, I'm gonna bring one in, and it curves off to the left, and then one off to the right. I'm Make that one in the middle just a little longer. That's just a guideline, and I lift it up at the end so it gets a point on the end. Kind of hard to see there because it disappears into the crease. I might make this one just a little bit longer. That way you can see it. And I'm going to make this one a little longer. When drawing an eye this big, it's okay to actually go over it more than once right there. I'm giving it just a little more volume right at the base. These are pretty big at this point. So they're slightly thicker at the base and then to a point at the end. You can do that now, or you can do that, at the end. It's just to get it on there. Then I'm going to come down to the bottom, and this is important where we locate this. I'm going to come down to the bottom, and instead of bringing it off this line that touches the eyeball itself, I'm going to bring it off the bottom edge of my highlight right here. It comes off the front edge of that. Let me just draw one and show you what I mean. And these are going to be short. Your bottom eyelashes are much shorter than your top eyelashes. Bring one that comes over here to the right, and one that comes over here to the left. Again, I'm keeping a little point on the end, and you can see they come off the bottom edge, not off up here, but down here. And I make them a little bit thicker at the base, and then pointy as we get out away from it. These are just guidelines to get us on the right track. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put one going off this way and one off this way. And this will have a slight curve to it. It's going to kind of come out towards the tear duct. I'll put maybe a couple of them in there. And I'm trying to curve down and then lift up, curve down and lift up. These aren't real long because they get shorter as we get towards the corner of the eye. Then I'm going to put some on the bottom, doing the same thing. They're going to go off to the left. And they curve slightly. A little thicker at the base. I'll hold that up so you can see that clearly. Now the top eyelashes will be slightly longer than the bottom ones. The bottom ones are really, really short. I'm going to move over to the right side, and these ones are going to be almost horizontal coming off the bottom. They'll curve down slightly, but they start off almost horizontal. I'm even going to put one more in there that is even more horizontal. Just like that. They curve down, but they're starting to get kind of horizontal to the page. Slightly thicker at the base. The important thing is you don't make these too thick. You don't want them to look like spaghetti noodles coming out of there. They need to look like hair. When you guys put your mascara on, it tends to thicken those eyelashes. That's why they're just slightly thicker at the base and thinner as they come out towards the tip. If you didn't make them thicker at the base and you just went with a line, you'd still be kind of all right. It would just look like maybe before you put the mascara on, so to speak. And And then probably the most difficult one on here is going to be the section between here and here, because these are fairly long and they got to have a nice little curve and then curve up. So we'll just start with the first one right here. I'm going to start right at the edge and then curve it up and lift it up. Next one, come one right about in the middle. Those are just my guidelines to get me started. This is just so I have the direction right on them and I'm not going kind of counter to what the eyelashes would be. I'm going to have to fill them in and put a lot more on here. That's just kind of a guideline so I know, okay, here they're pretty horizontal, then they slightly get a little more vertical, until we get to here and it's perfectly vertical. Then they start to lean over again as we go this way. Again, sort of like spokes on a wagon wheel. So on this side, I'm going to come along and start to put these on with that same kind of thing. They're going to get a little shorter as I go this way. I'm only putting a few on here to kind of get my direction on there and also to get my length on there. So I know, okay, I got to start to shorten them up and I got to lean them over. I don't want, these eyelashes should not be as long as these eyelashes on the right. The left should be shorter than on the right. One thing to take note when you're doing these eyelashes, they're not all going to be perfectly the same length. It's not like, at least as far as I know, nobody comes in with a pair of scissors or clippers and clips their eyelashes to all be the same length. Some are going to be slightly longer, some are going to be slightly shorter, but you don't want to come over here and have a really long eyelash on the left side. That's probably not going to be that way. And you want to be very careful not to get your eyelashes too long on the bottom either. Now these ones on the bottom that come over this way towards the end, they can be slightly longer, but as we move from right to left, they get shorter, just like they do on the top, but these are all shorter than what's on the top eyelid. So just to get these going, I'm going to come along here and put a few out here, same reason that I did on the top, just to get the angle right. It's also okay if some of your eyelashes crisscross. I'll do that right here, like this. If they crisscross like that, you can see where they crisscross. That's normal, okay? Same thing on the upper eyelashes. If they're coming along here and you got a little one crossing with another, that's perfectly normal. Now what I'm doing is just starting to fill it in. You don't want to have 10,000 hairs on here, okay? There's a little space between. But you do have to kind of fill it in a little bit so it looks like actual eyelashes. Now I'll come in and start to fill the bases in just a little bit. You start to develop it, and you make the bases a little bit thicker, the ends pointy and varying in length. It starts to look pretty real. Now it's just a matter of taking some time to draw each eyelash one at a time. Thicken the base a little bit. And just fill everything in. So that's what I'm going to do from here on, is just kind of finish it up. In that regard, we'll do the eyebrow last. And this part's going to take a while. If you finish it in just a couple of minutes, you probably weren't as careful as you needed to be on it. You're drawing each one of these with intention, not just random willy-nilly through it. Hopefully when you're done you have something similar to that. The biggest mistake I see is drawing too many eyelashes. I see that more than seeing too few. But just do the best that you can on it. Or getting the ones on the bottom too long, or getting the angles wrong. I mean, there's a little bit to it. You have to think it out a little bit. So I'll give you guys some time on that before we worry about the eyebrow. Actually, I lied. I think what we'll do is we'll skip to the eyebrow and then come back and have you finish off the eyelashes after we've got the eyebrow on there. That way you can really take your time on what you need to do on the eyelashes, because they take probably the most time on the drawing. So let's just go ahead and skip up to the eyebrow itself. We'll finish that off, and then you can come down and take all the time you need on these eyelashes below. Again, we're going to come along here and put some directional lines to start. In the beginning, they kind of lean to the left, and then they start to go to the right a little bit, so that by the time you get up here, they're leaning way over to the right. I'm just putting a few on there, so I have a guideline, and then they start to lean down here, just like that. So it's kind of like they lean a little bit this way, and then kind of like the wind blows and blows everything over towards the right. We just want to get those guidelines on there so that when we fill it in between, we know we're going the right direction. You don't really want them standing straight up right above. Grant, can you tap that, please? And the one on the left. Left. Thank you. Okay, so kind of going a little bit to the left and then start leaning to the right and then go way over. Now, when we draw this, we're not going to put very many on the very right end. It's going to be kind of, or the left end. It's going to be kind of sparse. We'll get thicker as it comes up here and then thins out again as we get down towards the end. Right now, we just wanted to get the direction on there so we don't goof that up. All right, now that we got the direction, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to leave these ones alone for right now. I'm just going to come in here and kind of fill in between. Going in the same direction, same length as my guidelines. And then as I get down here, I'm going to do fewer and thinner. As I get down towards the right end, these up here, the peak, I'm going to go a little bit both ways and thicken it up a little bit up here in the middle, and then just a few on this left edge here. Like so. All right, so I'll give you guys time to go ahead and finish out your eye. I'm going to stop that recording because basically it's a finished deal here.